everyone, and welcome to this conference hosted by MS Focus, the Multiple Sclerosis Foundation. I am your host, Kimani Hendricks, Multimedia Communications Coordinator for MS Focus, and today, Dr. Ben Thrower, Medical Director of the Andrew C. Carlos MS Institute at Shepherd Center, is going to be presenting some holiday and MS trivia, and this is exciting for me because I can't wait to find out what Dr. Thrower's got in his bag of tricks for us today. So in response to the questions, you'll either be asked to type your answers into the chat box or to physically raise your hand so that we can address the person that we see first. And Dr. Thrower, when you're speaking, I guess you can correct me if I'm wrong in that. But in any case, we are always grateful, Dr. Thrower, to have you co-host these Zooms with us and carve out time in your schedule. So without any further ado, I'll turn it over to you.
Great. Thank you so much. And thank you to everyone who's joining in with us. Hopefully you're having a wonderful holiday season. This is our last program for 2021. We're looking forward to a bright and hopeful 2022. Hopefully we will put COVID in our rear view mirrors. This is my favorite program to do of the year. I think I've met a kindred soul in Kimani. I carry a lot of just random stuff around in my head for trivia, and I think Kimani may actually out trivia me here. She is a super font of knowledge. So what we're going to do is go through some just fun, mainly holiday movie related stuff. There's some other things in here too, and then some MS trivia, and try to make this just a fun learning exercise. When you answer one of the holiday trivia questions, there's a swag bag prize. And Kimani at the end can give instructions on how you claim your prize. If you win one of the holiday prizes, try not to do more than one. Let someone else have a shot at it. If we get stumped on a question and no one's answering it, we can circle back around and then you can do two. And so we're going to start with one of my very favorite Christmas movies, and that is Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. And so in Rudolph, this character, what is this monster's nickname and what is his one weakness? You can raise your hand and come in live, or you can type it in. And Kimani, I'll get your help if anyone's typing things in, or if we need to open it up for a live raised hand. We get any takers?
I don't see any raised hands yet, and nothing in the chat. Oh, I see one. Teresa, can you unmute yourself?
Hello?
Hey there.
Yes.
I believe his nickname is Bumble.
Very good. And does he have what's his weakness?
That I don't remember.
You know what? We're gonna go with it. Kimani, before I show you want to take a stab?
Yeah, I think it's swimming.
Look at you, man. So
Good. Yes, you're right.
And he sinks, so he cannot swim. So that is good enough for a prize. Good job. Awesome. So we're going to skip over to an MS question now. These are just for fun, but really raise your hand, type it in if you know it. So the MAB in nataizumab, ocrelizumab, alemtuzumab stands for monolithic audio bomb, B, monocytic antigen broth, C, monoclonal antibody, or D, mammalian autoimmune basophil. Which of those is the right answer? What does MAB stand for? Anybody got an answer? Got any takers, Kimani?
Looks like Teresa again.
Teresa, all right, she's hot.
C,
monoclonal antibody. You're absolutely correct.
Woo!
Good job. So And this is kind of it's a big deal in healthcare in general. So monoclonal antibodies are engineered antibodies. So these are antibodies that are designed to do one very specific thing in the immune system. They're made in a laboratory. So they're important in the multiple sclerosis world. All of these, the medicines above that, that we mentioned, and there are lots more out there, all end in MAB. In the COVID world, it's become very important. So we now have COVID monoclonal antibodies. These are antibodies directed against the spike protein on COVID. So just within the past few weeks, the Regeneron monoclonal antibody product has gotten emergency use authorization for COVID, and the AstraZeneca monoclonal antibody has gotten approval. These are used in several different settings. So if you were to get COVID and we catch it early enough, generally within 10 days of onset of symptoms, we can give you a single dose of one of these COVID monoclonal antibodies to treat your COVID. We've been very impressed with how well these work. Most people will feel better within about 24 hours of getting the monoclonal antibody. We can use them in people who might be immunocompromised, who have either had an exposure to someone who's got COVID, or who might just be in a high risk group. So we're almost now thinking about sort of boosting your vaccinations in people who are immunocompromised with a treatment with monoclonal antibodies. Good job. Next question. Which drug is FDA approved to help improve walking speed in multiple sclerosis? Is that A, baclofen, B, Acthar gel, C, Tysabri, or D, Empira?
It looks like Ben jumped in the chat and said D.
D, Empira. Awesome. Good job. Oops. Very good. Oops. We keep jumping away.
Uh-oh.
There we go. So Empira is the generic is dalfampridine. There's another version of dalfampridine called 4-aminopyridine or 4AP. 4AP has been around forever. 4AP is a non-FDA approved molecule. It's made in mom and pop pharmacies. And what 4AP and dalfampridine do is these are potassium channel modulators. They work on potassium channels on naked nerve fibers. So if you have an area of nerve fiber in the brain or spinal cord that has been demyelinated from your multiple sclerosis, that's going to be the weak link in the electrical conduction chain. So if you use that naked nerve fiber over and over and over again, let's say with taking a longer walk, maybe for the first block of your walk, you do okay. Maybe with block number 2, now you've got a foot drop. Now with block 3, now your whole leg is dragging. What dalfampridine, Empira, 4-aminopyridine have the potential to do is to give you better endurance and better leg strength. They're not repairing anything. They're not repairing myelin. They're just making that naked nerve fiber work better. One of the mysteries to us is why doesn't this molecule work for everybody with MS? In reality, the people that take this, there's about a 40% chance that it's going to improve your walking speed. 60% of people sadly don't get anything from it. Generally, people will know after being on the medicine for about 4 weeks if they're going to get something good from that or not. Good job. Next question. Which of these drugs is not like the other? So one of these is different, and I won't tell you why it's different, but it's different. Is it A, Ocrevus, B, Tysabri, C, Rituxan, D, Kesimpta, or E, Truxima?
I saw Jim in the comments and he said Tysabri.
That is correct. So do you want to type in why it's different?
We do have a hand raised from Lisa.
Yeah. So Lisa, what do you think? Why is Tysabri different? That is the correct answer.
Somebody else had that, not me.
Uh-oh.
Oh.
Don't put you on the spot.
I'm sorry. I saw your hand raised.
Gonna make up something.
Oh, I think she's muted. Yeah, you're muted, Lisa.
Oh, sorry. So
It's
Jim
okay.
Barrett see, Jim Barrett has it. I want to read his answer. Give him the thing. It says it blocks the blood-brain barrier. So this is Jim Barrett that did this right,
All right, good.
not me.
All right, hey, we'll give Jim credit. So Tysabri is a monoclonal antibody that binds to certain white blood cells and doesn't let them use their key to unlock the door at the blood-brain barrier. So he's absolutely right. It keeps them out of the central nervous system. Everything else on here, Ocrevus, Rituxan, Kesimpta, and Truxima, are anti-CD20 monoclonal antibodies. So all of these other ones work on B cells in the immune system and share that in common. So there's been a lot of interest in B cell therapies in multiple sclerosis, and who knows, we might even see some others developed out there. Good job. All right, we're back to a holiday one here. What is the Christian holiday that celebrates the visit of the Magi or three wise men? Is it A, Boxing Day, B, All Saints Day, C, Epiphany, D, Good Friday, or E, Black Friday?
We've got a hand up from Lisa. I hope it wasn't an accident.
But it was not. It's Epiphany.
Very good. Awesome. Or as we say here in the South, Epiphany.
Oh, no.
So Epiphany is different cultures, put different emphasis on it. In our house, we have a rule: the Christmas decorations stay up until January 6th or Epiphany. Awesome. Good job. All right. Another, which of these is not like the others? Which of these drugs is not like the others? A, Gilenya, B, Ponvory, C, Vumerity, D, Zeposia, or E, Mayzent. One of those is an outlier.
Linda in the chat says Gilenya.
Gilenya is not correct. Close. Who else has got a guess?
No takers?
This is a little harder one.
Yeah. Oh, Ronald, I see you. You have to unmute yourself.
What you got, Ronald?
Mayzent.
Mayzent is not correct. Close.
Okay.
Teresa in the chat asks if it's C.
C is correct. Vumerity. So Gilenya, Ponvory, Zeposia, and Mayzent are all in the same class. These are S1P receptor modulators. So Gilenya was the first one that came out, and all of the Ponvory, Zeposia, and Mayzent are in that same class. So when you think about white blood cells, lymphocytes being given a job in life, a lot of the lymphocyte programming happens in the lymph node. When those lymphocytes go into a lymph node, they don't just passively go in and go out. They actually have to be given permission to leave the lymph node. And so what Gilenya, Ponvory, Zeposia, and Mayzent do is they block the ability of certain lymphocytes to leave the lymph node. They don't kill any cells. They just don't let some of the inflammatory cells get out and cause havoc in the brain and spinal cord in multiple sclerosis. Vumerity is the outlier. So Vumerity, I would say, is the cousin of Tecfidera or dimethyl fumarate. So Vumerity was a more recently released drug. You could think of it as kind of a new and improved Vumerity, fewer GI side effects with this drug, but the same mechanism of action. Tecfidera and Vumerity work on something called NRF, NRF. So they sort of down-regulate some of the inflammatory cascade in the central nervous system, almost act as antioxidants, if you will, very different mechanism of action from a lot of our other drugs. Good job. All right, which is a type of primary MS fatigue? So one of these is a type of fatigue. Is it A, anhedonia, B, lassitude, C, altitude, or D, borborygmi?
Susie in the chat says B, lassitude.
Awesome job. So that is correct. It is lassitude. And for extra credit, I think this one should get a swag bag. Can anyone tell me what borborygmi is?
Let's see. I see a lot of heads going.
So you can impress your family at the holidays at the Christmas table. After you eat your meal, say, "Oh man, there are some serious borborygmi." I guess it would be before the meal, actually. Borborygmi. That's the medical term for your stomach rumbling. So lassitude is one of the primary types of MS fatigue. The other would be nerve fiber fatigue. When we talked a moment ago about dalfampridine or 4-aminopyridine, that's called nerve fiber fatigue, and those drugs work there. Lassitude is the non-exertional, non-heat related fatigue. It just is. You don't have to do anything. It just hits you. Descriptions for this is, people will say, it's like trying to swim with a fur coat on. It's like lying with a lead blanket over my body. Your brain knows what you want to do. You want to go out and do something, but your body is just not going to cooperate. It's just overwhelming fatigue. All right, Christmas again. This is for a swag bag. What was the dog's name and how the Grinch stole Christmas, both the cartoon and the Jim Carrey version?
If no one knows, I'll answer and just give the swag bag to, oh, there we go, Lisa. You can unmute.
It's Max.
Very good. Lisa's knocking it out of the park. Max was the dog. Okay, while we're here on Grinch, so anyone want to tell me what the little girl's name is here?
I see.
What?
Anybody?
Yeah, I see Teresa again.
Teresa, what you got?
You have to unmute, Teresa.
Lucy Lou?
Close. Rhymes with that.
Rhonda.
Cindy Lou Who.
Cindy Lou Who. And while I got you, so in the cartoon version, how old is Cindy Lou Who?
I don't know.
Says think of Dr. Seuss and his rhyming. So Cindy Lou Who is not more than 2. Good job. You guys are smart. You're knocking these out. All right, back to an MS question. Which of these medications has been shown to slow disability progression in primary progressive MS? Is it ocrelizumab, placebozumab, teclizumab, or alemtuzumab?
Ben jumped in the chat again. He said A.
A. You got some smart folks here. I'm going to have to get harder questions. Absolutely. So ocrelizumab or Ocrevus is the only FDA-approved treatment option for primary progressive multiple sclerosis. The teclizumab was a drug that was on the market for a bit and then was pulled back off the market for relapse remitting MS. Alemtuzumab is approved for relapsing remitting MS, technically for secondary progressive, but really our only game in town for primary progressive is ocrelizumab. Good job. This is one of my favorites. So myelin is mainly made up of A, protein, B, carbohydrates, C, fine Corinthian leather, or D, fat.
We've got Linda in the chat, says D, fat.
Fat. Awesome, man. You guys are hard to fool. It's funny when we do this, most people go for protein, but you are correct. Most of myelin, 95% of myelin is just fat. If you look at a fresh brain or spinal cord sample in any mammal, it looks really, the white matter looks super shiny. It's because it's fat. So that fat is a great insulator. It lets electrical information be conducted very efficiently from point A to point B. Protein is important in myelin, but it only makes up about 5% of myelin. The reason it's important is we think that a lot of the immune attack in multiple sclerosis is directed against the proteins in myelin, not against the fat in myelin. Can anyone tell me what fine Corinthian leather is? We're all going to show our age here. Anybody got a guess there?
I don't see anyone. Hands raised. Ben says a Chrysler item.
Look at that.
It's something Ricardo Montalban sold you in a Chrysler.
Absolutely, Ricardo Montalban. So in the Chrysler Cordoba commercial, Ricardo Montalban just blurted out the term fine Corinthian leather, totally made up term. He made it up, but Chrysler went with it because it sounded so good when he said it. Just sounds like something you'd want to sit on. So good job. All right. Oh, here's a good one. How many ghosts appear to Scrooge in A Christmas Carol?
Teresa.
Teresa, what you got?
4.
You guys are too smart. Most of the time people will say 3. You're absolutely correct. So I'll let people know about Ghosts of Christmas Past, Present, Future, but they forget poor Marley who comes and tells them about the ghosts. I had someone argue so interesting when Scrooge goes to his, he leaves work and he's going home for the evening. Don't know if you remember, he knocks, he's at his front door and the door knocker becomes a ghost, but that's also Marley. So it's still 4. Yep, good job. All right, let's see what we've got. PML stands for A, progressive multifocal lymphopenia, B, primary multifocal lymphedema, C, progressive multifocal leukoencephalopathy, or D, pyloric metachromatic lipodystrophy.
Ooh, that's a mouthful. The first answer I see is Jim. He says A.
We got progressive multifocal lymphopenia. That is close, but not correct.
Susie says, is it C?
That is correct, C. So progressive multifocal leukoencephalopathy. I think our next one is along these same lines. PML is caused by A, Epstein-Barr virus, B, Jakob-Creutzfeldt, C, trickle-down economics, or D, John Cunningham virus.
I see Ronald. Can you unmute yourself?
A, we got Epstein-Barr virus. Close, not quite.
I'm seeing Melissa says D.
That is correct. John Cunningham virus. So JC virus is what we know more commonly by, but John Cunningham was the first human to be identified as carrying this. John, so a lot of us are very focused on how viruses evolve given the whole COVID pandemic. And so if you think about how viruses evolve, you could argue that JC virus, John Cunningham virus, may be close to a perfect virus. It is almost 100% ubiquitous. Every human adult in the world carries JC virus. And generally, JC virus uses us as transportation. It generally doesn't hurt us at all. We pick it up in childhood. It's generally transmitted through urine. So kind of a gross thought, but that swimming pool, the kiddie pool you swam in, when you took a big mouthful of water to spit on your friend, well, the kid next to you just peed in the pool. And so now you've got John Cunningham virus. It lives in our kidneys and just goes around and around. Where JC virus has become important is in PML. Only people who have some type of compromised immune system can get PML. So we really became aware of PML back in the AIDS when AIDS first hit in the 70s and 80s. But once it was identified, we realized it wasn't new, that we had seen this before. We've seen it in individuals who've had chemotherapy or organ transplants, anything that sort of alters your immune system. So JC virus normally lives in our kidneys, maybe in the bone marrow. In about 50% of adults, and it does vary around the world. Some areas of the world is probably higher and maybe more like 70% in some parts of the world. But in JC virus, it has the potential to mutate. And when it mutates, it wants to become neurotrophic. It wants to leave your kidneys and go to your brain. Your normal human immune system is not going to let that happen. You're going to make antibodies and other immune responses to keep that virus from doing anything. When we're measuring JC virus antibody index with blood testing, we're looking for those antibodies. If you're on Tysabri or you're thinking about going on Tysabri, we're checking these JC virus antibody index titers very regularly. We're trying to see if you carry the neurotrophic form of the virus, because that could suggest that maybe you have a higher risk for PML, and maybe there are certain medicines like Tysabri where we need to think about that risk-benefit ratio a little bit more, and maybe don't want to go on that. Epstein-Barr virus is also ubiquitous. About 95% of adults globally do carry Epstein-Barr virus. It has been linked to potentially the development of MS. So MS is not an active Epstein-Barr virus infection, but Epstein-Barr virus may be one of a handful of viruses that can potentially fool your immune system into going down this MS pathway. Jakob Creutzfeldt, if you're not familiar with that, is actually, it's not a virus, it's something called a prion. Prions are like bad science fiction. These are subviral particles. They're not even as big as a virus. They cannot replicate on their own. It's basically a little piece of genetic information that once it gets into the central nervous system, takes over your genetic hardware and starts telling your cells in the brain to make more little prions. It's so small that the human immune system cannot even recognize it. So you don't make any kind of inflammatory response. So unfortunately, Jakob Creutzfeldt disease is fatal. It is fortunately extremely rare. It's the cousin of mad cow disease. If you're a deer hunter, there's a prion disease in white-tailed deer called hind limb wasting disease or chronic wasting disease that is a version of a prion disease that we see in white-tailed deer. According to It's a Wonderful Life, what happens every time a bell rings?
The first hand I saw was Jim, so unmute.
What you got, Jim?
An angel gets its wings.
Absolutely, an angel gets its wings. You guys are knocking these out. We've had years where people don't get some of these questions, so you guys are doing really, really well. We have some sharp people. Awesome, very good. What is it called when you bend your neck and get an electrical sensation in your arms or legs? Is that the A, ow, it hurts syndrome, B, Lermite sign, C, Uthus phenomenon, or D, Babinski sign?
I saw Susie in the chat and she says B.
B, Lermites. Awesome. Very good. So Lermites is almost unique to multiple sclerosis. You could see it if there was maybe a big disc herniation or bone spur pushing on the spinal cord, or maybe a tumor in the cord, but most of the time it's something that we see in Lermite sign, in multiple sclerosis. Lermite was a French neurologist in the 1800s who first described this. Dr. Uthoff was a German ophthalmologist who described the heat phenomenon. So in his era, we had no MRIs, we had no spinal fluid evaluations. So their version of an MRI would be to take a person suspected of having MS and put them in a tub of warm or hot water and see if their vision dimmed. When we say Edelhoff phenomenon, it was classically used to describe visual changes with getting overheated, but now we kind of use it to describe any worsening of neurological symptoms when you get overheated. Dr. Babinski was a German neurologist in the 1800s who developed the torture test that we do on you in the exam room when we scratch the bottom of your foot with something semi-sharp. We're looking to see if your toe goes up or down. The normal response when we scratch the bottom of your foot is for our big toe to flex a little bit. If there's been an injury in the brain or spinal cord, the toe will actually go up and the rest of the toes kind of flare out. So that's a positive Babinski sign. It's not unique to multiple sclerosis. You can see it with anything that has injured the brain or spinal cord, but it's just a sign that something's going on there. What form of MS is the most common at the time of diagnosis? Is it A, benign MS, B, relapsing remitting MS, C, primary progressive MS, or D, secondary progressive MS?
Oh, a lot of hand raises on this one. I'm going to go with the first one I saw, which was Evelyn. Can you unmute yourself?
B, relapsing remitting.
You are absolutely correct. So relapsing remitting MS accounts for about 85% of the initial diagnosis of MS. So secondary progressive can be the evolution of relapsing remitting MS. With modern therapies and more aggressive treatment, hopefully we're keeping people more at the relapsing remitting end of the spectrum. Primary progressive, we mentioned a little earlier, it breaks a lot of the rules that we see in MS. It's the one form of MS that's actually more common in men versus women, tends to start later in life, more in the 40s or 50s, as opposed to the early 30s in relapsing remitting MS. And then benign MS is a term that is kind of argued about. So some people would say it might account for 15 to 20% of the MS community. Other people say, no, if you really ask people the right questions, MS is not as benign in these folks as you think it is. Maybe some of these people that look pretty benign at the surface are struggling with some cognitive issues or really severe fatigue issues. But the idea is it's someone who has MS, and probably never goes on to a disease-modifying therapy and just follows a much milder course. We know it exists. The challenge is, can we predict it at time zero? And I would argue most MS centers in the US and Canada are very humble about making that prediction at time zero, because if we predict that someone's going to follow a very benign course and don't start treatment, or at least offer treatment, and you're wrong, the consequences are, price is pretty high for that individual. So usually benign MS is something that a label that we use after we've watched someone for 5 years, 10 years, or we look back over the person's life and say, gosh, you're 90 years old, you had MS and you were never on treatment, and you're, functioning just as well as any other, person your age. So we know it's there, but defining it up front is a little challenging. Hanukkah is known as the A, alternative to Christmas, B, Festival of Remembrance, C, 8 Nights of Giving, or D, Festival of Lights.
In the chat, Linda says Festival of Lights.
That
D.
is absolutely correct. Good job. Good. The theory that MS might be related to living too cleanly is called A, the Pythagorean theorem, B, the Mr. Clean paradox, C, the dirty double standard, or D, the hygiene hypothesis.
I see Linda in the chat. She says D.
Man, Linda, you're knocking it out of the park today. Good job. So we know that the human immune system evolved to do something. It really evolved to protect us from threats, both internal and external. Internal would be mainly things like precancerous cells. External would be germs, bacteria, viruses, parasites. So the theory of the hygiene hypothesis says if you live in a hyper clean environment, maybe and maybe you have the right genetics or background, maybe your immune system is more likely to turn in on itself. So it's more likely to attack itself. And there's a lot of epidemiologic sort of background for this. If you look at sort of countries where the sort of the genetics are fairly homogeneous, some Northern European countries, if you will always see more autoimmune conditions, interestingly, in the higher socioeconomic areas. So maybe these are the kids who are not hitting their environment till they're maybe 5 or 6 years old, as opposed to the kid who's out playing in the streets, getting in the mud and dirt, going to a daycare a little bit earlier in life. So there may be a price for living in these hyper-clean environments. If you were to look at a global map of autoimmune diseases and now look at a global map of parasites, they're almost a photo negative of one another. So as we've in modernized medicine have done a pretty good job in some parts of the world of killing off parasites, the thought is, our human immune system evolved hand in hand with parasites. If you take the parasites out of the equation, you may be more likely to have an autoimmune condition. So if you look at the part of the human immune system that deals with parasites, it's the part of the immune system that is relatively overactive in multiple sclerosis. So there are studies globally looking at actually trying to treat autoimmune conditions like multiple sclerosis by fooling your body into thinking that you have a parasite. What if you gave someone inactivated roundworm or tapeworm eggs so that you don't actually get the infection, but you fool your immune system into thinking you have the infection? There is some evidence there that you can potentially treat autoimmune conditions that way. Couple of case series out, and this has probably been 5 years ago now, out of Europe, individuals with MS who had tapeworm infections, and when their tapeworm was treated, their MS got worse. And so we don't want to put up with a live tapeworm, but there is this interesting kind of balance between our external environment, germs and parasites, and what our human immune system has evolved to do. What is this boy's name?
Come on, Linda.
I see. Okay. Oh my God. Everybody's.
Oh man, he's popular.
They are. I see Teresa. You were the first one I saw.
Ralphie.
Ralphie, awesome. That is, and for extra credit, just for fun, what's his last name?
Don't know.
Anybody got that one? They only say it one time in the movie, so when they deliver the dad's major award that he won, the delivery guy says the family's last name. Anybody got anything?
No, I don't see anyone.
Nothing. Parker. So that Ralphie Parker. When we were on one of our medical trips, my wife and I, with a group in Nicaragua, we were doing trivia questions. There's no technology, so no one's got a phone down there. And someone asked, what was Ralphie's little brother's name? And for the life of us, we couldn't think of it, and no one could Google it. So we went the whole trip, everyone trying to think of what it was. And it wasn't until we got back to civilization and Google it that we remembered that it was Randy.
Yeah, I didn't know their last name, but I remember the brother's name. Jim comments about the leg lamp. That scene kills me.
The fragile. anybody's ever been to Indianapolis, the movie supposedly takes place in Indiana. And so Indianapolis kind of claims Christmas Story as their own. So they're in the airport gift shop. There's all kinds of cool Christmas Story trinkets and doodads. You can buy your very own leg lamp there. All right. Oh, we got another Christmas Story. So due to some hungry dogs, what did Ralphie and his family have to have for Christmas dinner? They were going to have their wonderful turkey, and the dogs came in and ate the turkey. So what did they have instead?
I saw Robin's hand go up first. I'm going to unmute you.
Chinese food.
Absolutely. They went to Chop Suey Palace and had Peking duck. Good job. All right. So this one is courtesy of my therapy team. They said if I didn't throw a physical therapy question in here that I would be in big trouble. When transferring from a manual wheelchair to a bed, the very first step is A, check your blind spots, B, remove your shoes, C, lock your brakes, or D, perform a few stretches.
C.
C, lock your brakes. Absolutely. I kind of like A, check your blind spots. You never know what's coming up behind you. Good job. What does HSCT stand for? Is it highly specific cryotherapy, hematopoietic stem cell transplantation, hairy seals can't translocate, or high-speed cell transfusions?
Ben says B.
B, absolutely, hematopoietic stem cell transplantation. So this is still a work in progress, lots of promise. So if MS is your immune system gone awry, and picking on brain and spinal cord, axons and myelin, what if we just gave you a new immune system? So that's the idea behind hematopoietic stem cell transplantation. So the idea with HSCT is that they're going to take out immature stem cells from your bone marrow. This can be done through through pheresis, through a blood draw. They usually give you something first to help kick out some of those stem cells from your bone marrow. So there are medications they can give to make your bone marrow spit out some of these immature cells, collect those from the blood. They're going to set those aside and freeze them. We now need to clean your hard drive. So we need to wipe out your existing immune system. That's done with high-dose chemotherapy. Immune system is wiped out, give you those stem cells back, let you reboot a fresh immune system. Takes about 28 days for those cells to start growing. They're your cells. You can't reject them. We don't have to do tissue typing. So if you had a bone marrow transplant or stem cell transplantation from someone else, as an unrelated donor or sibling, that's called autologous. I'm sorry, it's called allogeneic. This is autologous. So if it's your cells, it's autologous. If it's someone else's cells, it's allogeneic. Because these are your cells, again, we don't have to worry about tissue typing or rejection. We know that this can be a very effective treatment. What we've also learned over the years is it's very, very important to think about the right person to receive this. What we've learned is that the right person has relapsing remitting MS, not a progressive form of MS. Ideally, they're going to be under the age of 50 and they've got hot disease. They have a head full of active inflammation. Maybe they've tried a few very effective therapies and are not responding as well as they should. So you want to be sure that you're picking the right person. The reason you want to be selective is that the procedure has gotten safer over the years, but it's still not a walk in the park. We're wiping out your existing immune system. During those 28 days when you're sort of regrowing an immune system, any little infection that could come along could be potentially serious or fatal. Right now, there are a handful of studies going on in the United States. It's not FDA approved yet. We do have individuals with MS who are very interested in having this done. And because there's not a lot of opportunity here in the United States, people get interested in going elsewhere. They look at Mexico, Clínica Ruiz in Mexico, or Russia. I would just say really look at the risk and benefits if you're thinking about that. Talk to your healthcare team. These are, again, this is not a walk in the park. This is a serious procedure. Think about the logistics of going to, somewhere outside of the US to have this done. When you come home, if you have a complication, it's very unlikely that you're going to go back to Mexico or to Russia to have a follow-up appointment. Some sort of plan in place for ongoing care. I can't speak a lot to the folks in Russia, but I will say that the folks in Mexico are pretty indiscriminate. If you have the money, it's generally about $70,000. And you have an MS diagnosis, regardless of your age or the type of MS, they're probably going to offer it to you. And I don't know that that's really an ideal situation. So be a smart healthcare consumer if you're looking at this. Which of the following is not likely associated with a higher risk of MS? Not likely associated. A, Epstein-Barr virus. B, mercury amalgam fillings. C, low vitamin D levels. D, having a parent with MS. Or E, childhood obesity in girls. Which of those is not likely associated with a higher risk of MS?
The first answer in the chat came from Susie. She said B.
You guys are too smart. Good job. So this has been something that has been circulated as a myth for quite a while, that mercury amalgam fillings were associated with a higher risk of MS. Like a lot of myths, there's a nugget of truth in there. Mercury is toxic. Mercury is neurotoxic. When you think about when someone says you're mad as a hatter, hatters back in the 1700s and 1800s used mercury to cure the felt, and so they typically went crazy from the mercury exposure. But the amount of mercury that you would get through fillings is not enough to be neurotoxic. This study has been done over and over again to see if there's any truth to that. We have people with MS that have had all of their mercury amalgam fillings taken out. Typically, dentists are not using mercury amalgam fillings. I've got a bunch still. They wear out over time. You probably want to replace them just because they break down and they're not very pretty. But other than that, there really is not a risk of MS for them. We talked about Epstein-Barr virus, that it is one of a number of viruses that could potentially fool your immune system. Another one would be human herpes virus 6, which is roseola in kids. Through the North American Nurses Study, we know that low vitamin D levels early in life can be associated with a higher risk of MS later in life. One of the things we counsel folks with MS on is that if you have kids or younger siblings, it's worth having those children or younger siblings get their vitamin D levels checked at some point. The MS has a genetic component. So if your mom or dad has MS, you have about a 3% chance of having MS in your lifetime. It's a low risk, but it's higher than the general public. And one of the things that we can do to potentially lower that risk even further is check vitamin D levels. And if they're low, correct them early in life. And then interestingly, childhood obesity, especially in teenage girls, seems to confer a somewhat higher risk of MS, more so in girls than boys. Which drug is not used to treat MS bladder symptoms? A, tizanidine. B, oxybutynin or ditropan. C, DDAVP. D, tolterodine or detrol. Or E, mirabegron or Myrbetriq. Which of those is not a bladder medication?
Susie in the chat says C.
Do we have a vote for C? That is not correct.
Let me look and see again. Stephanie says A.
That is correct. Good job. And it's a little bit of a trick question because a lot of people have not heard of DDAVP. DDAVP we do use to treat bladder symptoms. Technically, it does work at the kidney level, but we use it to treat the bladder symptoms. We give DDAVP at bedtime. If you're having to get up and go to the restroom quite a bit, we can give you a dose of this at bedtime, and it tells your kidneys to back off a little bit on urine production and just let you get through the night without having to get up quite as often. B and D, ditropan and detrol, are both what we call anticholinergic drugs. These tell that small overactive bladder just to relax a little bit. Don't go quite as often. Myrbetriq is a newer class of drug, works on different chemical receptors than those other ones. We like the Myrbetriq quite a bit, very effective drug. Usually your insurance company is going to want you to have tried one of the ditropan detrol type drugs first before they'll let us use one of the Myrbetriq drugs. One of the advantages of Myrbetriq over ditropan and detrol is it's not as likely to give you a dry mouth or constipation. Generally good medication. I think we're getting close to the end. Urban legend has it that this company invented Santa Claus.
Jim says Coca-Cola.
You are correct. Good job. So not true, but it makes for a nice urban legend. And Coca-Cola really capitalized, with some of their artwork of Santa Claus. So I don't think I have this one up there. So anyone want to tell me? Oops. Go back here. Anyone want to tell me what? So there really was a Saint Nicholas, a real guy. What country do we typically associate with Saint Nicholas, the real person?
I don't see any.
No takers on that one?
No. Oh, Karen says Finland.
Not Finland.
Teresa, do you have a different answer?
Switzerland?
Switzerland? Nope, not Switzerland.
Try. Linda says Germany.
Not Germany.
Lisa, can you unmute?
Sweden.
Sweden, not Sweden. People are liking those Northern European countries. So
Linda asks Turkey. If it's
very good. So Saint Nicholas was a priest who was actually from Greece, but he did all of his religious work in Turkey and is actually buried in Italy. But he was a real guy. Yeah, the real original Santa Claus. Let's see. All right. How many people in the United States do we think have multiple sclerosis? Is it A, 1 billion, B, 1 million, C, 400,000, D, none? MS is fake news created by the Russians.
Oh, I saw Karen's answer B.
B, 1 million. Anybody want to vote for 400,000?
Yeah.
No takers on 400,000? 1 million is absolutely correct. So the reason we put 400,000 up there is, if you're like me, you remember that from the 1970s through probably 5 years ago, that was the number we used. It was just this magic number and it never increased. And we knew it was horribly wrong. It's very likely that 1 million may be an underestimate, that there are probably more than 1 million people, but we're getting closer to the real answer. So that was an update from, again, about 5 years ago, the 1 million number. I think this may be our last one or close to it. What real life department store is featured in this movie?
Linda says Macy's.
Absolutely correct. Good job, Macy's. I think, is that it? Yes. So you guys were amazing. I'm gonna have to change the questions and make them harder next year. You guys are too smart. Good job. So MS Focus, all of you folks, your staff, thank you so much for what you've done throughout the year. Again, I've said this before and I'll say it again. The pandemic has changed the way you guys do business, but you still keep right on keeping on. You're taking care of the MS community. You're offering educational programs and you make it look just absolutely effortless. And I know it's not. I know there was a lot of work going on to make all of this happen. To all the sponsors that we've had throughout this year, and then to everyone from the MS community, you guys are amazing. You're one of the big reasons that I get up in the morning. I truly love what I do as a neurologist. I feel very, and I'm saying this on behalf of my team here at Shepherd. We feel very honored that you trust us with your healthcare. When we form these relationships and working with MS, it's a lifelong relationship. I have individuals that I diagnosed when they were 13 who now have, children of their own attending school. And it's just, we've come a long ways. So when I got into the MS world, we had no FDA approved treatment options. Now we have 22. I really do believe that we will have a repair strategy that we will be able to push the clock backwards in the foreseeable future. And so I'm very excited about that. You guys all have wonderful holidays. If you were one of the holiday question winners, you want to let them know again how they claim their swag bag?
Yes, so anyone who answered a holiday question correctly can send their residential address to a reply in the email that you received when you registered the confirmation. Just send us your residential address and someone on our team will put together swag bags for you and mail it to you, hopefully in time before the holidays. So that was a lot of fun, actually. I'm glad that I was here to help and to, just be a part of this. This is our last conference until 2021, and Dr. Thrower's town hall conference is going to open up for 2022 on Tuesday, the 4th of January at 3:30 p.m. Eastern time. And yeah, if you guys did miss any part of this conference, it will be up on our YouTube channel before the holidays arrive. So please stay tuned as far as that's concerned, and please follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, Multiple Sclerosis Foundation, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. This was fun. Again, I want to do this next year, or if I'm not host, I'll try to jump in as a guest.
You got to help me with some questions for next year.
Okay, deal. Everybody, have a safe, blessed holiday. Enjoy your families and stay safe. Take care.
Take care, everybody. See you next year.